Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Oh man, I love that song. It's such a fun song. It's like one of the best things to come out of Spirited is that song.
Yes.
I just want to like say it to people and be like, you don't know I'm insulting you.
Good afternoon. You're full of shite.
You know, I have to say Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell was a great combo.
That was a genius combo for a movie, especially a Christmas movie about the Grinch or like a
not the Grinch.
I just meant like a Grinch,
Scrooge.
A Scrooge figure.
No, it wasn't about a Scrooge figure. It was about Scrooge.
Well, no, it was about Scrooge and a Scrooge figure.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Yeah. But
Shelby and I also watched like the animated Christmas Carol.
Oh yeah.
And it was one of the more realistic animations, like Polar Express was, because it came from that same era.
Kind of uncanny.
But it actually looked like pretty good. Like it didn't look. I think it was because they gave everyone like wrinkles, so it wasn't like super smooth faces and stuff. It was like everyone had
I never
more.
thought about that, but you're right. Yeah,
had more definition and stuff. Because at first I literally could not tell if it was like actually Jim Carrey with makeup on or if it was animated. Because when I first
it was Jim Carrey Scrooge?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't think I saw that one.
It's pretty good.
What's the other one? It's kind of late for us to be talking about Christmas movies, but what's the one? Oh, I wish I could remember. Dang it. I wish I could remember who does the voice. I know it's like a recognizable voice person.
Voice actor.
Voice actor. Voice person.
Most people are voice people.
Are you familiar with the one where it's like they're in a like a Scandinavian town, and the implication is that like this guy's kind of like Santa Claus, but oh my God, it's gonna bother me.
I don't know.
It's a mailman. The guy's a mailman. He's setting up a mail. Klaus. That's what it's called.
I've never seen that.
That was actually really good, and that was really interesting animation. Jason Schwartzman did the voice of the mailman, and J.K. Simmons was Klaus.
Another really good animated movie that I've watched recently was the Pinocchio movie.
Really?
Like not the older one, but the newer one.
I mean, I assumed.
Yeah. And I was really good.
I don't know that
It was kind of terrifying too because, Nazis and stuff, but.
Oh, okay. In 2022?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I knew there was another Pinocchio.
It's really good. It's
dang, Jiminy Cricket looks kind of scary.
It's like really, really. Actually, his voice is very like soothing though.
And you said there's like Nazis in it?
Yeah, it takes place during World War II.
Really?
Yeah.
I might have to watch that.
Because like Pinocchio even gets like enlisted and stuff.
Sorry. Pinocchio in the army. By far my favorite Pinocchio is in Shrek.
He's just chaotic.
Yeah. Chaotic, neutral Pinocchio.
I love that in another good animated movie was Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
I actually enjoyed that. And you know what? It's so funny. I watched Uncharted last night.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, what's his name that does the voice for Puss in Boots?
I don't know.
Anyway, he was the bad guy. Well, I kind of feel like they're all bad guys, but he was like the main bad
guy.
Yeah. He was the rich bad guy in Uncharted. And I just kept picturing Puss in Boots whenever he talked. I was like, great.
My name is Puss.
Antonio Banderas. And I felt kind of bad because I was like, man, I've reduced you to the animated cat you voice. But fun fact, Antonio Banderas got
which is an awesome name, by the way.
It really is.
It just rolls off the tongue in
Antonio Banderas.
In the most satisfying
It really
way.
does.
Like it feels like a character name.
It really does. But he got an honorary degree from my college the year I graduated.
Oh.
And the way we were lined up was in reverse alphabetical order, and we were standing on either side of the sidewalks. And then the academic, professors,
alphabetical order.
yes. So like Z was closest to the podium. And then the professors and Antonio Banderas and like any provosts or whomever, you know. So then they like kind of came in and they like walked through, and then the A's would fold it. You know what I mean? So it would kind of like, so they walked through, and they're coming up towards me, towards, you know, everybody, not just me, but, and I'm looking for professors I know to be like, hey, you know, and I recognize Antonio Banderas, but I don't recognize in the moment that he's Antonio Banderas. And so I just like wave excitedly, and I'm like, hey, and he looks at me and he goes, hey.
That's funny.
And at the time he was married to Melanie Griffith, and she was like sitting there like taking all these photos and was like a proud mom. Like it was really cute. That's also the ceremony where when I went up and got my degree, your dad stood up and he was all the way at the back and he yelled, "That's my wife."
That sounds like Dad.
Yeah.
That definitely sounds like him.
Yeah, that was. Yep. So anyway, fun little fact. Anyway, Uncharted was not a good movie.
Yeah. And you didn't even play the video game. So imagine how it was for people who played the video games.
No, yeah. It honestly felt like, I love Tom Holland, but it honestly felt like he was just playing Peter Parker Goes Exploring. Like he was not quite as like,
they just
sorry, ma'am, like that kind of thing. But there was a little bit of that. And it was like,
they just needed to,
you know.
He was just not Nathan Drake at all.
Yeah, he didn't strike me as a Nathan Drake kind of character based on the limited amounts I watched when you were playing it.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like,
to be fair, like he was doing like a beginning of Nathan Drake's story, but even then he would have been more serious or like more knowledgeable about stuff. Because
no, he was I felt like he played him very knowledgeable. I just felt like he played it a little like you mentioned to me.
He played it knowledgeable in terms of like history and artifacts, not in terms of like not politics, but like the underground and stuff like that. And he's pretty well known on that as well.
I see what you're saying. And he just wasn't as like suave as I would have expected.
Yes.
If that makes sense. Like,
no, I know what you mean.
It was like almost like some of the stuff he did was accidental.
Yeah.
Which is what you had said like before. You were telling me, you're like, yeah, it's almost like he accidentally does something to win the fight, but you think Nathan Drake would be pretty on point.
He knows what he's doing. Yeah. Like even in like earlier in his career, he trips over himself, but he's still like versed.
You know, they ended the movie with an end credit scene that indicated that they were going to do a second movie, but I don't think it did well.
The movie didn't do well, so it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't do one.
Yeah.
Although I will say the thing of, spoiler warning, of the ships hanging off of the helicopters.
That was actually kind of cool.
That is Uncharted. That is
I did think it was funny. Like
that's a video game thing.
They roll up on the beach and they're like looking like hell, and the like person at the resort is like, "Oh man, you guys look like you've been through a lot." And he was like, "Oh yeah, I just did this, and did this." And it was like ridiculous things. And the guy was like, "Oh yeah, that happened to me once." And I was like, that has got to be the guy who voiced Nathan Drake in the video game. Because it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, sure, that happened to you once. So anyway.
Yeah. I seriously recommend, if you're like, all of the Uncharted games are really good. And I remember the first time I played Uncharted 4, and it was just like, I was like, this game is crazy, but I love it.
Yeah.
I was like, this game is so stupid.
Are they still making Uncharted games, or is it kind of like run its course?
I don't know. They been a little bit.
It's been a little bit.
It's been a little bit since they've made an Uncharted game, and the last Uncharted game they made was like a spinoff with another character. It wasn't even Nathan Drake.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, sometimes games, they just take a while for them to develop, and who knows, maybe at the next Game Awards or next Xbox or no, it's PlayStation mostly. So at the next PlayStation showcase, they might announce it, like Uncharted 5. But
yeah. So I watched that. I feel like I've been watching a lot of TV and movies the last couple weeks because I've been sick, and you can hear I'm still like a little stuffed up. But I'm hopeful that this is the end.
Well, you've been watching Reacher.
Yes. So the first day I was sick, your dad and I watched the entire first season, which he was like, by the end of it, he was like, I don't want to ever do that again. Like, he was just like,
I was really surprised.
I mean, he liked Reacher, but he just like,
he doesn't usually like to sit through something that long.
But I didn't really feel like doing anything else. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we watched it and it was pretty good. I like this season seems a little bit more interesting so far. I feel like I just have to appreciate it for what it is. Like, it is not super high quality spy intrigue. You know what I mean? Like, it's
He's not really a spy, though. That's the thing.
Right. I know. I'm trying to think of how else to. It's a leverage type of thing. You know, like it's
kind of, yeah.
A little. I love leverage, and don't get me wrong. Like, there's a whole leverage channel on Amazon Prime or their free V or whatever they call it, and I will seriously like turn that on and just watch even half an episode of Leverage because I've seen them all like 5 times, so I know how they all end. But they're fun. Like they're ridiculous in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like they're not meant to be taken super seriously. And that's kind of how I feel about Reacher. Like,
I feel like I feel like at least to compare to Leverage, it is much more grounded.
Yeah, I think it's more grounded than Leverage, but it also like I don't think the guy Alan Ritchson, who plays Reacher, like I don't think he's that great an actor. I really don't. But
I think it's also hard to play his character because, like, I've been reading Killing Floor, and he does a really good job of Reacher because he speaks exactly like how Reacher thinks and talks in the books, and so some of it might just be limited by his character.
Maybe, yeah. But it's still good. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I've been watching Fargo, which was amazing. Oh my God. I never watched Fargo until this season. And like each season, it's an anthology series. So like each season's kind of its own thing. You know what I mean?
That's what they're doing with Reacher too.
Well, no, these are completely different characters.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's like American Horror Story where it's like a whole new.
Well, the same actors playing different characters for American Horror Story.
Well, actually, okay, so then there's even different actors. Like, you know what I mean? So it's not like that. But I never watched it before until we were in Pennsylvania for Christmas, and my parents were going to watch it, and I was like, I'll watch it. And then the last episode was just this past week, and it was so good. It was so good. Like, just such great commentary on the nature of violence and debt, even. And
it's an interesting combo.
It is a very interesting combo because they play with this idea of debt as in like literal debt, like credit cards and, all this stuff, but also debt in terms of like sin and
blood debt.
Yeah, actually, very much. And so it's just very interesting, I think, how they kind of play with those two things, like quite literal debt and then like a more,
fancy debt.
More, I'm making a hand signal that I guess kind of looks fancy, but like theological, maybe like
it looks like you're calling your butler, like
philosophical debt. And so I started rewatching or not rewatching because I never watched them for the first time, but I started watching the other seasons. That's a really good show. It's a really good show. But yeah, I'm almost like at the point now where I'm like, I'm tired of watching TV and movies, which usually does not happen. But just because I don't feel well. I have no energy. I don't, and it's like, what am I going to do? I'm just going to watch something.
Then you play video games.
I
Keeps my mind active.
I don't have my own, like video game system, but I wonder if I would actually no, because my carpal tunnel syndrome, I think I would just have a difficult time doing that.
Probably. I mean, as long as you didn't do like long sessions.
I mean, that's why I was really bummed about the VR. Like we got the VR a few years ago and I was super excited to do Beat Saber.
Yeah.
But then it was like, I could only do it for a little bit and then my arms and hands would be tingling. And I'm like, dang it. Like, that's super fun. And I was excited because it had like exercisey things too. Like it had, but yeah, anyway. But yeah. And actually that kind of makes me think about, another thing this week. So, I agreed to go to this, like little like seminar thingy at the library.
Gotcha.
And I did not want to go because I was not feeling well, but I promised to go for someone else and take notes. And so I was like, okay, so I went and I like dragged my butt out there and because I was still feeling sick. This was before I went to the doctor and got a Z-Pack so I could like knock this infection out, and yeah, anyway. But once I got there, there's a couple different things. Like one, it was a whole bunch of nonprofits and I recognized one person and that was just such a change from 15 years ago,
Be like, oh, I know you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I used to be the executive director of a small nonprofit here and I knew everybody, not everybody, but I knew a lot of people. And it just feels so weird to be like disconnected from that, cause now I work for an international nonprofit. And so I don't like really work with people, locally. And then the other thing was like, even though I hated getting ready and I was like, I don't want to go out, I was surprised by how much I liked being out and about, And so it just got me thinking about like, I wonder how often we fall into ruts and it's what feels comfortable to us. And so we don't, like try to get out of them because we think we're in our comfort zone and where we want to be. But then like, if we would kind of step out of them, like, maybe life would be better. Like I enjoyed being out and about. And I also realized how much I miss like knowing people in the area and what they're doing, and
yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty accurate with where I'm happy and comfortable because I just don't like going to other places very much.
I don't like going places.
I mean, it's true. I mean, it even gives me like a certain level of anxiety and like not fear. I think fear is a little much, but I guess it's kind of where anxiety stems from. So I don't know, but I like being in the safety of my home.
Yeah, I would say that you've always been a little bit more like that than I have. I think for me, I very much struggle with my chronic illness because that is the source of the not going and doing things. Like I used to go out. Well, I've always been a little bit of a homebody, but I used to be more willing to go out and, do things.
Yeah.
And then I got sick and over time, my energy levels and my ability to like keep up with things just has diminished. But the struggle is with with dysautonomia is you have something called exercise fatigue, which always makes people laugh. And they're like, yeah, I get that too. I don't want to exercise. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. There's a difference. I've felt the normal exercise fatigue of like, you're pushing too hard and you're, you know what I mean? This is different. It's like you're exercising, or maybe not even like what you would consider exercise, quote unquote, but like walking around, going up and down stairs. Like, do you know what I mean? Just like being out in the world. And it's not just like, oh man, this is strenuous. I got to push myself a little bit harder to finish lifting these weights or like whatever it is. Oh my gosh. All of a sudden I feel like I'm coming down with the flu. Like it's a very strange, and the problem is that in order to build back up your stamina, you have to exercise, but then you don't like, you have this feeling like you come down with the flu and you don't know which times it's going to be like you fall apart and which times it's just you needed to push a little bit more so you could build, you know what I mean? Like, because I've done the whole like, oh, I'm fine, I'll just push a little more. And then I've been out of commission for 2 hours.
Collapse.
Yeah. So it's difficult because I feel like in some ways being forced to push through that is good. And at other times being forced to push through that is bad. It's like when we lived in Blacksburg, I went back and forth on that because we didn't have a car. And so like the one time I got really sick and I had to go to the doctor. Unfortunately, the bus went right to the doctor's, like right from our apartment to like it dropped off like right in front of the doctor's.
I don't remember that.
It was so great, which is why I chose that doctor. I was like, well, it's right there. Like literally at the top of the hill.
Ease of access.
Yeah. But then it was like, oh, we need to call in this prescription for you. And I was like, there is no bus that comes by here and takes me over to the pharmacy. Like, cause it was like a half mile.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was snowing, and so I'm super sick and I had to like walk the half mile to get my meds and then like walk the half mile back to the bus stop to get back home, and like that kind of stuff was terrible.
Man, I was so in shape in Virginia.
Oh my gosh, so was I.
we just had to walk or ride our bikes and that's that's honestly a big reason why I've like genuinely considered moving to like Europe or something because that's how it is everywhere. You just walk or ride your bike everywhere. And that sounds so wonderful to me because I fucking hate cars.
Or public transit is just a lot better.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we have public transit here, but it's a hub and spoke system. So it's like you have to go downtown and then switch buses and then go so it takes a long time.
I just hate cars.
You're like your dad.
I know. It's another reason I don't like going out. I don't like traveling much at all.
Yeah, I wonder if you would get out more if it was more walkable. Like
probably.
I just saw,
especially if it was like my friends live just down the road.
Like in Blacksburg.
Yeah. Like I would probably be at their houses all the time.
Yeah, I often think about that because I definitely having to be kind of pushed in Blacksburg, like even when I didn't feel like it, to ride my bike or have to walk a little because the bus only went so far, definitely helped keep me in shape, I think.
Yeah.
But also it is, it's a lot easier to just...
Here you can't, it's not like you have to walk a half mile to get to your car and then drive somewhere. It's like you just walk outside, get in your car, drive to the place, go into their house or
which makes
business or
certain
whatever.
Things a lot easier. Like I hated grocery shopping in Blacksburg because it was just such a pain in the butt. Like either we had to take our bikes with the bags and load them up and you know what I mean? Or I had to take
I thought it was kind of fun, but
I didn't like... If we were all going, or like at least 2 of us were going, I didn't mind it so much. But a lot of times I ended up going grocery shopping on my way back from campus. And that meant lugging bags from the grocery store to the bus stop. And you know what I mean?
I think for me as well as between school and home was the grocery store. So if I ever wanted anything, I literally just on my way home would just grab something. It really
literally was on your way. And it was a lot easier if you went and got like a few things at a time.
Yeah. And even you guys would text me during school or something and be like, hey, could you pick up more milk or something?
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was just watching something this morning about how somebody was reading that like pretty much every single factor of life improves when cities are more walkable.
Yeah.
They're like physical health, mental health, like improves access to resources.
One thing I wish like everybody did was like Japan's highway system where they have the bike lane in the middle of the highway, like that's in between the two sections. And then it's shaded by solar panels, and then the solar panels are what powers the highway.
Oh.
So it's just like a perfect.
That's interesting.
It's just a perfect system because it's a shaded walkway / bike lane, and there's the highway on both sides, and then all of the street lights are powered
awesome.
by solar power.
That
shades the walkway.
That reminds me, I had the weirdest dream about biking downtown. Where your dad was like, "Oh yeah, I'll show you the way to bike downtown the easiest way."
I still remember that. I could still ride the route to downtown in Blacksburg if we went back there.
Well, this was here in Toledo.
I know.
But yeah, downtown. Oh man, that was a great ride.
That was a great ride.
Terrific ride. But in my dream, it was like these weird, like you had to like walk up all of these strange stairs and like kind of like push your way through all these like strange. It was really weird.
It's like Harry Potter. You had to run straight into the
practically it was very, very strange. And I don't know why that was in my dream, but it was just like being like
clearly your mind
walking
needed to sort something about walking around.
I don't know. It was really weird.
Yeah, I think part of the reason I also don't like going places is like a lot of times if you go somewhere, it's for a responsibility of some sort, whether that's to yourself or someone else. And that usually means there's like a time that you can't leave. And I think it being inescapable is like
interesting.
Because like if I could just go to work and then just leave whenever, first of all, that's obviously not going to happen. But I think I'd be so much more comfortable with going to work, and I would have no problem going to work. And I'd probably even stay the whole time. But the fact that I can't just like leave when I'm getting uncomfortable being at somewhere else, like gives me so much anxiety.
Oh, that's interesting.
Or even like I know I can leave my friend's party whenever I want to. I still feel obligated to like stay there until other people are leaving.
Yeah.
And so that's more my fault. But
that's really interesting.
But like if I'm just like going somewhere to like sit down and work on stuff, then I can just leave whenever I want to.
Yeah, you and Shelby will just like go sit at a coffee shop for a while, and you'll be there for a long time.
Yeah. Although that's also a little different because sometimes we're on her schedule, not mine, and so then it's the same situation.
I see. And you don't drive, so
yeah,
you can't just be like, "I'm leaving you here."
Yep.
Not that you would do that, but that's interesting. Yeah, obligations. That's I wonder if that's why some people just bail on parties rather than not go to them at all. Like some people just won't show up for something.
I thought you said the same thing, bail on parties instead of going to them at all. Like
that some people will, instead of just going and being like, you know what, I'm so sorry, I can only stay for a half hour, and then leaving, they'll just not go.
Oh, I see.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder if there's that, like, it's almost like it's better to not go at all and just like somehow that's viewed as better than going and only staying shortly.
I think that might also be why people like having parties here, is because I leave no obligation for people to stay. And I think people have like realized that they can come here and leave whenever they want to. Like there really is no, like you have to stay until this time. I think the only thing is really D&D. But even then, if people were like, I'm just tired and I need to go home, I'd be like, okay, I can wrap it up.
Yeah, that's true.
But like I have a lot of people that will come to my parties and would will be like, I'm only going to stay for like an hour, but I just wanted to stop by and like say hello or play a game or something real quick. And then they usually end up staying later.
I wonder how all of this, I'm really curious how all of this social obligation stuff is going to change with all the different generations. You know,
there's definitely less societal thinking nowadays. Like, I think now there's way more individual thinking than there was before. Because now there's not as much like if you're going to a party, you need to show up on time and you need to stay there until the end and then leave unless you have another obligation. It's now like, if you're going to show up to a party, just show up and then leave whenever you want.
So what you just phrased, you mean more like less feeling of obligations to like the group thinking of society? Okay.
So things that have been established by society, like what you're supposed to wear, when you're supposed to be at places, how you're supposed to eat, etc.
Yeah.
That we're moving away from that so much, and everyone's just now becoming an independent thinker, which I know to some people is like murder. But
I think there's two sides to that. Like, I think it's good that we're questioning long held assumptions, because there is this strange thing where people will be like, that's not normal. This isn't what's acceptable. And I'm like, okay, but who decided what was acceptable? You know what I mean? Like, people in power, typically white people, typically male and Christian, decided what was societal obligation. You know what I mean?
It's like our conversation the other day, not on the podcast. This was separate. But where we talked about where like certain things came from. And I was saying that I feel like a lot of it came from rich people do something consistently between all rich people, and so then all the poor people will emulate that to make themselves feel more rich.
Right.
And I feel like that is also not happening as much anymore. Because now a lot of people are like, I don't care what the rich people do.
Well, I think there's also a lot more people, there's less ability to do the things and to mimic them, because just financially there's a larger gap.
Well, I don't just mean with like things they have, but just things they do as well. I mean,
yeah. Well, I think that kind of individualistic thinking is, I'm not going to say individualistic, independent thinking is good. But then I think there's another kind of individualism that kind of sucks, where our society is very individualistic and very much focused on like my personal freedoms and like stuff like that. And so we are less concerned about doing what is good for us collectively, which I think sucks.
Yes and no. I think some people are like that, and I think some people aren't, because I think there are plenty of people that don't think the way that they're told to think as a collective, but then their new way of thinking becomes the best thing for the collective.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Because they have some, I mean, this is a story as old as time, that some really smart person comes up with something that is against the beliefs of basically everyone, but is true, or at least would make things better. Like the earth is round and is not the center of the universe.
And then other people come over to their side of thinking, and yeah.
And so now I think there's that if there's more of those independent thinkers.
Yeah. I think we're talking about two different things. I think
maybe.
one is independent thinking, not feeling like you have to go with the flow and coming up with your own ideas and kind of bucking expectations.
I mean independent, not selfish.
Yeah, I think, there's that. And then there's this individualism, this emphasis on individualism that to me feels selfish, like you're saying. And it's people are so focused on their own, like my individual freedom, my this, my that they don't care about what's maybe collectively good for society. Like, why would you take some of my taxes to help pay for this person who doesn't have a job so they can eat? Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? And I think individualism is what's like screwing up our country, because people just are only focused on their own well-being. And the funny thing is that a lot of that was grounded in religion, which makes zero sense, because the Bible, or Christian religion, because the Bible is so collective. It is so much about the collective, and people are just like, my personal Jesus, my personal relationship with Jesus, which I also want to know. I also want to grab them and be like, what Jesus are you talking about? Because like
the one who died for everyone,
right? Like the way you behave is so antithetical to who Jesus was. Oh my gosh,
the whole my Jesus thing is so annoying. It's like, well, my Jesus would think this, and this.
Like, Marjorie Taylor Greene just the other day was like, I believe in Jesus. Do you believe in Jesus? The Democrats don't believe in Jesus. And I was just like, I do not for 1 second believe that you believe in Jesus, lady. Like that you that you like worship Jesus and like study what Jesus did and think this is a way I should live my life. Because
I also just don't understand that in general. I don't understand studying religious texts and being like, this is how we should live as a people.
I get it, because it's searching for meaning. Like and religion feels like a place where you can find meaning.
Yeah, I just mean I'm not going to look through a collapsed civilization to study how to make my civilization good, if that makes sense.
It's not that it's about a collapsed civilization. The idea behind any of these religious writings is that some sort of supernatural being gave us instructions, right? And so
I wish.
It's nice.
Feels more like the IKEA instructions instead of Lego instructions.
It does sometimes, yes. Actually, that's a really great analogy. Because I feel like IKEA instructions are sometimes up to interpretation, you know?
Yeah.
And you're like, how do I translate this to English?
Does the snail actually go here?
Right, yeah. And what is this weird stick figure person doing here? You know, like, what action is this? And
they really need to take a page out of Lego. Lego's instructions are so clear.
You hear that, God?
Yes. Can you change IKEA for us?
Well, also, you know, make things a little bit more clear.
I thought you were just asking to fix IKEA.
No. Although, yeah, please. No, I think there are people who would be like, the Bible is clear. And they're like, I read my English translation and I know exactly what it means. And I'm like, yeah, okay. It was not written in English, but okay. But I mean, there is something, I think, comforting about believing that there's something greater than yourself out there and that they have the answers.
Yeah. I just think it's hard that something up for interpretation is the thing that you use to lead your...
Yes, that is true. And I think that is why so many people claim it is not open to interpretation, and why they claim that their interpretation is the correct, clear cut. You know, we have it right, you have it wrong. I mean, I think it's
so weird. Use the resources you have in front of you. I guess that would actually be a resource that's in front of you, but you know what I mean? Like, think about the situation that's going on and make interpretations that way. Don't try to find some hidden meaning in the Bible to solve the answers for you. At least if you're leading a country.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a whole other ball of wax. I mean, because people will say that we were a Christian nation founded on Christian principles.
I don't care.
So the Bible should, but they're wrong. We were founded on freedom from religion.
We were founded on blood and rape.
Well, I mean, there's that too. But when it comes to what they declared, what,
I mean, that is very Christian.
Yeah. What was declared was, what the reason why the revolution happened was they didn't want people telling us what to do. Yeah.
Get it.
So, I don't know. We're not founded on Christian beliefs. Okay.
I don't understand that anyway. What does it matter what we were founded on? If it's not a thing that we want to follow anymore, then we just don't follow it.
Yeah, that's another interesting.
People's undying loyalty to things just because it was the thing before, but doesn't actually have a reason to be loyal to it, is so weird to me. I don't understand that.
It is kind of funny because I wonder when the last amendment to the Constitution was, because I feel like we had a lot of amendments initially. Yeah. They're like, oh no, you know what? We messed this up. We need this, and this.
I think we still have like 50 or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
More than that.
And I feel like now there's certain people who are like, the Constitution cannot be it. I mean, I feel like it is what's in place. And so if you are, say, the president, you should, say uphold it. But if we decide as a country that, our values have changed, it is kind of weird, like the Second Amendment, right? Like people were like, oh, my right to bear arms. They completely ignore what was originally actually meant by that amendment, but we'll point to it and be like, that's my right enshrined in the Constitution. Like, yeah, but we didn't have those types of guns back then. And like, you know what I mean? Like it's just I
always love when people will then be like, well, then do that with other amendments. And it's like, yeah, we need to change a lot of shit.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I'm like,
do.
Not just picking on one thing. I'm picking on the whole Constitution we just need to scrap it and redo it.
I don't know that I would go as far as saying just scrap it and redo it, but I think there's a lot of things that we need that, I think we need to change.
Having clear, because like everything was written in a different form of talking too.
Well, so I don't think we've changed our legalese. There's still weird things like be it resolved that blah 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 blah.
I don't know. Even if it's the same things and we're just rewriting it for clarity, that would be fine. But
and that's an interesting point too, because it feels like our legal documents should not be open for interpretation.
Yeah, no.
So
that's like saying our laws are from the Bible, and then everyone's like, okay, so then what are the laws?
Yeah. Well, and there are people who want it is kind of ironic to me that it's funny when Christians are like, well, we're based on the Bible and we should have all of these biblical laws in place. But then they will go on and on about how Sharia law is terrible. And Sharia law is basically biblical, like not biblical, but like religious law based on the Quran, I think. Now I'm wondering if I'm misremembering what Sharia law. So it's like they're criticizing one religion for wanting to have a law based on a religious document, but then they're like, we want our law based on a religious document. Sharia is a body of religious laws that forms part of the Islamic tradition based on scriptures of Islam, particularly the Quran and the Hadith. Okay, yeah. So it's like they will criticize the concept of Sharia law and be like, that's terrible. But then be like, oh, the Bible should be the law of the land. And I'm like, okay, well then you need to change how you're critiquing Sharia law. Like you just don't like it then because it's Muslim.
Probably.
Because it's from Islam. It's not because, anyway, it's just such a weird, people are inconsistent with their critiques of things, which I'm sure
also I wouldn't
counts for me too.
But I wouldn't make something that is left up for interpretation as our law for our country or something that is set in like mysticism and
right. Well, that happens with all kinds of laws, even the ones that weren't like based in some sort of religion, right? Like that's why we have so many lawsuits. And that's why you have judges to be like, well, the spirit of the law is this, like, or the letter of the law is that, and
yeah.
But anyway, look at us just solving America's problems. Just let us rewrite the Constitution. We'll be good.
Just be careful who you let rewrite it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And that would cause a whole other. Who would be the Constitutional Congress? Who would make that up?
God.
Yeah, actually,
This is why I just want to move out of the country. I don't want to be here anymore. I'll let America implode. That's fine.
There's no way I would want the Constitution rewritten right now because.
Or sorry, that's individualism.
Who knows who would be in that? I mean, I don't want Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz rewriting the Constitution.
I don't know if I want anyone that is currently in government rewriting the Constitution.
There's one guy, I think his name is Jeff Jackson.
It's a pretty basic name.
It is. Oh, and AOC. I like AOC.
Is she a Stan Lee character?
She is smart. No. But he does feel like a superhero. I think his name is Jeff Jackson. He's a first-term congressman from like North Carolina or something. And the dude is like smart and calm and like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And measured and like, I'm like, we need more people like you. He doesn't do stuff for the camera and
yeah,
you know what I mean? And Anastasia Ocasio-Cortez. She's super duper smart. And Katie Porter, she's super duper smart.
You know what? We should just have Keanu Reeves rewrite the Constitution.
There you go. And enforce it.
Yes. Oh, gosh.
John Wick style.
He's like actually military trained at this point.
Oh, my gosh. He could probably
he's
kick
like
all of our butts.
He's like actively trained in combat for all the movies, and so he's like proficient.
Yeah, probably. He probably
stuff.
could really well defend himself if anybody actually dared to, get on him. But anyway.
All right.
Wow, we were really all over the place today.
We were. That's fine.
We talked about Christmas movies, Uncharted.
I was going to continue talking about
cities.
I was going to continue to talk about movies, but then we started talking about the exhaustion thing. I was like, okay, then I'll talk about exercise then. And then we got to politics. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll talk about politics then.
Hey, it was kind of fun to kind of run the gamut of topics.
Yes.
But
yeah, let's be real. If we don't try to, this is what it would be every week if we didn't try to rein it in.
Have a topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you listen, let us know. Do you prefer us to have a topic or to just sort of wander around all of the things that are going through our
Have 4
heads?
names for the episode.
Yeah. I mean, there's podcasts that do that. They just kind of talk about the different, things going on.
So. All right, well.
But, well. I think it's time to go. Is it time to go?
It's time to go.